AOA podcast, and we're back for another episode. So good to be here with you on what is an incredibly wild and historic day, as former President Donald Trump has been found guilty and convicted on every single one of the 34 counts, 34 felony charges filed against him. I did not know if we were going to get here, and I did not think that we were going to get here today. And I don't think that anybody did, including the judge, who at 4:30, and it is just around 6 o'clock, 6:13 here Eastern Standard Time. At about 4:30 or so, the judge was ready to dismiss the jury for the day today when he received a note from them, timestamped at 4:20, saying, we have come to a decision and we're going to need a little bit more time. At which time, according to several court reporters, they had witnessed and observed Donald Trump smiling, laughing with his attorneys, enjoying himself, having a wonderful time. And then as soon as the judge let it be known that, hey, we're going to, the jury's not going anywhere, they've come to a verdict, that was it. He became quite stoic. He tensed up, some reporters are saying, and the tenor of the entire room changed in just an absolute split second. Really, really quickly. I find it interesting that, and I spent the last 10, 15 minutes or so just kind of cruising around the mainstream media just to get everybody's reaction, from Fox to CNN to Newsmax to MSNBC, just to kind of get the tenor of what the media is saying and how they're handling it. And what I found really interesting was everybody in the court got nervous. And I realize this is a historic day, but these are pretty professional people. And one reporter, I don't know her name, was trembling. She described herself as being so nervous she was trembling a bit as she was typing out some of the details that were being shared in the courtroom before a verdict was even reached. Lots to go through here, including President Trump's reaction, which I'll play for you in a moment. But what also transpired, which was pretty interesting, so the jury got called back into the courtroom where they had to, notify the judge, obviously, that they had reached a verdict. And contrary to what we were even saying yesterday, and that what was reported in the news everywhere, is that they didn't have to come to a unanimous decision. Well, they did come to a unanimous decision, and they let the judge know that, and they read out every one of the felony charges, all 34 of them, and the jury foreman with a handheld microphone right in front of the former president said guilty after every charge was read aloud. Now, there's always an option for the defense to poll the jury, which is in that particular case where they would go to each individual juror and ask them what they found. Did you find that person? We found them guilty. Yes, guilty. So they literally went to all the jurors, and every juror in front of the former president had to admit their vote, which was indeed a guilty charge. So that was a pretty unbelievable circumstance to have happen, for them to say, yeah, we want to poll the jury, because realistically, you really need one. I mean, let's look at this. And listen, I know a lot of people are going to be charged up and upset by this. I know a lot of people are going to be very excited about it. But to have to sit there and listen to them declare all of that, I mean, that's unbelievable. I would have loved, and nobody's ever going to know because there were no cameras in the room, but I would have loved to have witnessed what that felt like and how long that took for them to go through each and every single juror, for them to agree and be polled on what their vote was, them all being obviously guilty. All 34 accounts, I was a little surprised by that as well. I was wondering if this was a kind of situation where they would let him slide perhaps a little bit on something, anything, something. And they did not. They did not. The prosecution really basically got every single thing that they wanted in this trial, and it's pretty unbelievable. After it was read aloud, the judge determined that there will be a sentencing on July 11th. Now that's 2 days before the RNC, the committee, names him as their nominee. He can still run. Nobody expects him to have to serve any sort of prison time. Him being a first time offender and it being a nonviolent crime, so nobody's expecting any sort of any situation like that. But I mean, it's a pretty surprising from the standpoint of how quickly this happened. I mean, you're talking about a grand total of, what was it, yesterday and today of deliberation. I mean, that's not a lot of time. That's an up and down kind of, yeah, as Paul says it, a slam dunk. I would say 2 days of deliberation is pretty much a slam dunk. TD Freelancer, I would love to have seen Frankie C's reaction. I think this all came down, the news came down, literally less than an hour ago, about an hour ago. And I think Frank has been having a 60-minute orgasm. I'm not 100% sure because I've never really wanted to talk to him while he was orgasming. But I'm pretty certain that's what's happening right now with our old pal, Frankie C. I think he's elated. I think he's overjoyed. I will try and get a comment from him. TD Freelancer would like a comment. I'll tell you what he told me. Holy shit. That's what he texted me when I told him that we were going to go live, and if he was available, and he said, holy shit. So I don't know if it's like holy shit or holy shit. I don't know how he orgasms. I'm guessing here, and I would love to switch topics if we could. I don't want to talk about how my oldest friend orgasms. But I would imagine he's pretty happy. What this does from here on out, I really have no idea. As I was saying, July 11th, the sentencing will take place. And again, nobody's expecting any sort of prison term here. But also, is this the kind of thing where the RNC just kind of moseys on forward with Donald Trump as their presumptive nominee? Because despite all the primaries and the votes and then everything that took place, that's the Republican nomination. The party nominations are not a democratic process. They could all pick whoever they want. Party could put up whoever they want. We can decide whether we want to vote for them. That's a different situation altogether. But it's really up to them. And I know that today everybody's going to be saying, well, of course he's still going to be the nominee. Nothing really changes here. And we all know that the RNC has fallen in line behind him quite consistently. But when you think about it, this has been the latest in a series of really big losses for the former president. I mean, aside from the fact that he lost the last election, and then there was a case against his company, which did not fare well for him. He's got 3 other court cases coming up besides this, and he just lost this one, which, if you go back and listen to what people were saying about this case, that it was ridiculous, that it shouldn't have been brought forward, which we'll talk about in a second, that it was rigged and faked and bad judge and horrible jury and all that stuff, despite all of that, the feeling is or was that he was going to beat this, that there was nothing really here, that it was Michael Cohen who was a liar, that it was, all these different circumstances, which basically led to how could you, the fact that he was a president, how could you, convict this guy on this thing that happened so long ago and nobody really cares about and blah, blah, blah. But the fact remains that he stood in a room with a jury of his peers, and they all openly voted him guilty on all 34 counts. And I think that's significant. And I think it's going to take a couple of days for that to settle in, especially for Republicans, because obviously today, I mean, it's wild how this has turned into a sporting event. It's a sporting event because I went up, like I said before, I went up and down Fox News and MSNBC and whatever, and you see celebration a little bit on one side, like CNN and MSNBC, professional, but fighting back the little smirks and smiles that they're all feeling right now. And not all of them, but some of them. Who's the one who's got the short hair on MSNBC? The young lady there, I forget her name. Anyway, she was thrilled. She was thrilled. Anderson Cooper's a bit more of a professional. But anyway, they were doing that. And I went over to Fox News, and I mean, you look at Jesse Waters, and it's like, it's like your favorite sports team's commentator just being sad after they lost the World Series or the Stanley Cup. They're like very remorseful and very. Jesse Waters said, he said, I'm paraphrasing, but he goes, Trump helped build the New York City, the Manhattan skyline. He kept us safe all throughout the pandemic. He sent Governor Cuomo ships and aid and all this stuff, and this is how they repay him. I was like, I can't believe this guy is a quote unquote journalist. And that's his take. That is his take. He helped build the skyline. Okay, he's one of many real estate or developers that did build buildings in Manhattan, but to be like, oh, he shaped the skyline, like, let's take it easy there a little bit with that sort of rhetoric. I don't really. But the guy looked like he was about to cry. Forget Janine Pirro, or whatever. She was upset. She almost got into a fist fight with another guy who thought that she was laughing at him just now. I hope that clip winds up circulating because it was a shit show. I mean, it was literally like when you watch your favorite sports team and the hometown commentators are doing, post game, and they're just like trying to find the silver lining in the situation. It was horrible. It was really, really horrible. So people are going to be upset today, and they're going to react the way people react when they've lost a contest. But I think when the smoke clears over the course of the next couple of days, we're really going to learn something here. And I think that is, and I've been saying this all along, and it holds true right now. Listen, we're an hour into this. It's very fresh. But it holds true for me. Is this who the Republicans want to move forward with? Can this guy still beat Joe Biden? Just before we got on the air, the fundraising website for Donald Trump was down. So that's not good because he's going to obviously pull in a ton of money today. All his followers and loyalists are going to donate to him in a major way. I'm just checking to see if that's back up again. He's got, if you go to his, all right, we'll bring it now. We got to bring his site up on the screen here. If you go to his website, he's got political prisoner graphics up here. He is bragging about just being convicted. I gotta say, it's fairly interesting. I just noticed that on the side of his MAGA hat, he now has 45-47 on the side of his hat. You gotta admire that. Very hopeful. But my point is, and I'll bring this up for you guys so we could all look at this together. So I guess this is back up again. Pop up here. How do I get through this? Okay. So here we go. Political prisoner. It says, I'm a political prisoner. I was just convicted in a rigged political witch hunt trial. I did nothing wrong. They've raided my home, arrested me, took my mugshot, and now they've just convicted me. Crooked Joe Biden needs to get the message right here, right now, that his chances of a second term end today. But for that to happen, our media pushback must be so massive it will go down in history. We must make Joe Biden regret ever coming after us. Before the day is over, I'm calling on 10 million pro-Trump patriots to chip in and say I stand with President Trump. Interesting take here to just say I just need 10 million. My end of the month fundraising deadline is just days away. So at the Stark Hour, I'm humbly asking for you to please stand with me now. I know with you by my side, we will be back. We will win back the White House and make America great again. Donald Trump, 45th president. Let's see here. You can. Oh, look at this. They have preformed amounts: $20.24, $47. Donate this amount if you think Donald Trump is the greatest president of all time. 47th. He would be the 47th president again. $100. Donate this amount if you think President Trump did nothing wrong. And then $250, $500. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You know what I find the most fascinating about all of this? He probably, I mean, realistically, not that anybody would do this, but he probably does not have to raise $1. I mean, you're getting so much publicity. Usually you raise money to run ads. He does not need to run ads today, right? He's going to get all the PR and press over the next couple of days and weeks off of this. So, you know, this money is going to go to obviously to just running the campaign and his social media and all that kind of stuff. But you don't really need to do a lot. I mean, any advertising person would tell you now is not the time to spend money because everybody knows about this. I mean, this is the biggest story that we've had so far in 2024. I mean, prior to this, it was him getting arrested, right? And now it's him getting convicted. So he keeps besting himself as far as the biggest stories go. But the fundraising is on, and this is a big deal for him, obviously, personally, to pick up some cash. But back to my point, what I was saying, and I swear to you, I really believe this to be true. Prior to all of this, I feel like the best chance for the Republicans to win back the White House was with this man. But now, when you look at it and you see, okay, he couldn't straight up win the White House again. He says election fraud. Now he's into these cases and he's losing these left and right. He's got 3 more to go. How much more? I just don't believe that the American people have this much patience for a person. His followers, they've got it. I think the Trump loyalists, listen, if you have a MAGA hat in your home right now, you're probably not abandoning this guy anytime soon. I believe that. I think his base is there and they are stronger than ever, and they're probably getting stronger by the second. But what I'm talking about is every single election, it's like 40% for the Democrats, it's 40% for the Republicans, and there's that middle 20% that swings back and forth year after year, just depending on who they really like most, you know? And that 20%, I feel like, was really tired of Hillary Clinton and swung towards him in 2016. And then obviously with the pandemic and everything that happened there, it was just like a fearful, we've got to change a course of action here. And I think that 20% swung back over. Not all of them, obviously. Nobody's won an election 60-40. It's always been like, you know, down 49, 51. You know, it's always been super tight. That 20% is going to split fairly evenly as well, but there's a little middle ground there where they're going to swing either way. And it's those people that I feel won't really be there for him too much more in the future. You know, I just don't really believe it. I don't know if there's anything more that he can say. I do think that these things are damaging, and I'm going to tell you why. If I was wrong, he would not have been so sad and solemn in that courtroom. If he really believed that this was a sham, he would have been laughing at this the entire way. If Donald Trump really didn't believe that this was going to hurt him, he wouldn't have taken it as hard as he did. How hard did he take it, Ann? I know it sounds like a punchline setup. Here, take a listen. This is him coming to the podium right after the verdict was read. 34 counts guilty. He came to the podium and he had to say this.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one, with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
All right, so that was him just coming out of the courtroom moments ago, talking about, again, rigged, bad judge, bad jury, Biden, Department of Justice, so on and so forth. So that was President Donald Trump. But listen, he's saying all the things that he usually says. When he usually says them, he's a lot more animated. He's a lot more upbeat. You know, to my point, he was very solemn. He was very sad. I found him to be quite bothered by this. And I think that's because he knows this is a bad thing. Even though you may think this was rigged, fixed, Department of Justice, weaponized, you know, however you want to slice it, he sat in a room for 7 weeks in front of a jury of his peers, and they found that what he did was a crime. Now, people are going to say, well, this is obviously they're weaponizing. He didn't, very conspicuous the time that this was all brought up and everything. I don't think that that's an unfair point to say this is crazy, way too late, you know, for this even to be, you know, a thing, for it to be brought up. Like, why are they bringing this kind of stuff up now? I think it was, I think that's not an unvalid and unfair point. But I go back to, you either broke a law or you didn't. You know what I mean? Like, can the timing be called into question? It can be, it can be, but I don't think anybody really looked at this so much or so well before Alvin Bragg. And I think a lot of people were charmed by him, even those who hate him. Meaning that even the people who hated him were like, oh, that's just kind of who he is. You know, grab him by the pussy. And, I could, his wife is wearing a coat of like, who cares, when all this stuff is coming out about Stormy Daniels. I think we were all kind of charmed by, that's pretty typical of Donald Trump. It would be these crazy happenings that would go on. And at the end of those days, every day we would be like, chalk it up to him just being Trump. That's Trump, So I think everybody was kind of charmed by him in that way, and it took one guy to say, hold on a second, let's look at this a little bit here and see what's going on. And everybody thought he was crazy. I think I sat on the show and I said, this is really bad. You don't want to do this. You don't want to convict a former president. seems like, okay, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, all this and that jazz and blah, blah, blah. But you don't want to bring this guy up for a case that you don't think you can win. I said that. A lot of people said that. And then over the course of these 7 weeks, they were able to convict a jury of his peers that he had done something wrong. And they all openly voted. They were polled afterwards and had no problem standing in that room with the former president, just feet away, saying, "We think you're guilty." And by the way, these are people who, we read this on the last episode, so go back to it if you didn't see it. Some of these people follow this man on Truth Social. Some of these jurors get their news from Fox News. Some of these jurors felt like what this guy stands for is pretty good. I mean, they knew that. I mean, listen, both legal teams have to agree on a jury. I thought when we were sitting through the jury, and you can go back to this episode, our episodes, it's all there on tape. I didn't think that they were going to pick a jury as fast as they did. And they did. So clearly his defense team had people on that jury that they felt they could convince that he did nothing wrong and he would be on his way. Well, those people who follow him on Truth Social, who use Fox News as their main source of gathering, looked at this guy in a room and said, "You, sir, are guilty." I'm not entirely sure how you can come to any other conclusion that there was a crime that was committed. Now everybody's going to have the "I was speeding" thing. Oh, you were doing, 65 and a 60, or say, "Oh, it's only 5 miles an hour. You let me go." Okay, you might say that, but I mean, again, there's 34 counts here. There's plenty of opportunity to get this man off, and they weren't able to do it. That's pretty significant. What I'm saying is to write off this case the way President Trump did, and I don't expect him to react any other way. I expect him to say and do exactly what he did. But for the American people to be like, "Well, this was rigged and this was that," I mean, this is our justice system. Again, if he really didn't do anything wrong, the jury would have found him not guilty. You can talk about change of venue. You can talk about all that stuff. That's all fair. Yes, New York City is a liberal Democrat hub. But like I was talking about with Jay Sabs yesterday, a lot of fucking rich people there. A lot of conservative people there. You go right outside of New York City and it is all Republican. I mean, all Republican. And by the way, all those people that live in these areas of the city have houses out here on Long Island and in the Hamptons, and on the Jersey Shore, so he had Republicans on that jury. He had people that followed him on Truth Social on that jury. The idea of, oh, they were overrun or whatever, they all sat there and were polled and said, "We find you guilty." I don't know how you can argue this one. I mean, I could see how he's going to appeal it. Okay, fair. That's fair. That's fine. You could appeal it. But to just discount it off like this was nothing, I have a hard time with that. I have a real hard time with that. Let's go over to Christine Colson here. Says that he can still run for president. He can still run for president. Yeah, he can still run for president, and he is. I think, again, the only people, going back to my point that I was making a little bit ago, the only people that can change that is the RNC themselves. And if I'm on the RNC chair, I'm going to give it a real hard look. I don't know who else you can put up at this point because they've fallen so far in line behind Donald Trump. It's not a favorable position for them. You only wish, I mean, by the way, this is why you don't have people like Donald Trump destroy other people like Ron DeSantis and like everybody else that he just absolutely destroyed in their way. This is why you don't do that, because if the guy in the chair don't work out, you can go to the next guy. Think about if Trump and DeSantis had gotten along throughout the entire Republican primary, probably would have been a little easier to say, you know what, we're going to put our best foot forward with Ron DeSantis. It's kind of hard to do that now, but if I'm in that RNC chair, I am thinking about it today because I'm thinking about winning. I'm thinking about winning. Listen, only time is going to tell. We'll look at the polls over the course of the next couple of days and see what's what here. But you're talking about a convicted felon. Call it bullshit or whatever you want. The man's a convicted felon. That is going to be said about him all the time. And I know a large chunk of this country is not going to give a shit and not going to care. But like I said, there's that middle 20% that's not Democrat or Republican that swings back and forth every single election. They're the ones that are going to sit there going, do I want, when we go over to, the G7 summit, and when we go do this, and when we go do that, and when we go to the UN, do we want the president of our country to be introduced as convicted felon and President Donald Trump? Those people are going to have to make those decisions. And I don't think that a lot of people are going to want that. I really don't. I really, really don't. I know everybody's going to scream unfair and rigged and everything like that. But at the end of it, I think people are going to be like, it's probably just easier to and that's the other problem. He's not the incumbent. It's very easy to stick with the incumbent. It's very easy to be like, whatever, we'll just go with the other guy. As embarrassing as Biden is, at least he's not a convicted felon, is kind of what's going to be happening, Christine says, you are right. You don't destroy those around you that can put you in office and keep you there. Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, this is the flaw with Donald Trump from the beginning. He's an egomaniac, and you have to have an ego to become president. But if you really, really cared about your conservative values, you would put that up and above your own presidency, which most presidents have done. It's not about me, it's about our ways. He says he's fighting for our country, but realistically, he's fighting for himself. He's not really fighting for anybody else. He has the support of everybody. If he really wanted to defeat Joe Biden, how hard would it be for him to say, hey, Ron DeSantis has the full confidence of myself. If you believe in me, if you believe in our Republican conservative values, vote for my friend Ron DeSantis here. He's going to pick up the mantle and he's going to run with it for the next 8 years. Whereas I could only give you 4. He's going to give you 8. He's going to have my full trust. I'm going to be his advisor when he's making decisions. He can pick up the phone and call me at any time. He's primed. He's ready. He's done A, B, C, and D with Florida. All this stuff. He's ready to go. Or, I'm using DeSantis as an example. Nikki Haley, whoever you want to fucking say. It doesn't make a difference. They're all the same. If you really wanted to win, you would do that. You know what I mean? Because he loses this one now. What happens if he loses another one? Now, I don't know if we're going to get another one before the election, but we're going to get the sentencing before the Republican nomination. And I think they're going to start one just before the election, if I'm not mistaken. So, again, I don't know what you do. I just really don't know. Matt says, as a convicted felon, he will have just won the vote of every disadvantaged family, every ex-convict, and every criminal in America 100%. Is that facetious? Because you can't vote if you were convicted of a crime. So I don't know. Is that a joke there? Hey, would you blow me says, nope, not true. I'm a felon, a really bad one too. Been up most of my adult life. I knew Donald J. Trump was trash in 1990. Well, listen, I know a lot of the people I know that voted for him hated him before he was running for president. One famous friend of mine, he was like, he would shit on him constantly hated because he worked in the trades in New York City, and Trump's reputation in New York City was shit. He was very famous for not paying people and fucking people over. He put a lot of people out of business by, promising contracts, letting them do the work, and then not paying them so that they couldn't pay somebody else, and people would lose in their livelihoods with this guy. And then you read stuff too that he paid for so-and-so's mortgage, and so he's got his good parts about him too. But when it came to business, he was very stone cold and rigid, and not an easy guy to do business with. Really not an easy guy to do business with. And most people in New York City really did not like him. And a lot of those people voted for him in 2016. So a lot of 180s in play with Trump and his presidency here. But again, I feel like the majority of our country, there's a degree of tolerance here, and his hardcore fans are going to be there no matter what. It's those middle people that I just don't know how tolerant they're going to be, because he is going to be referred to as convicted felon forever. Nikki says, I see the Dems dividing this country. Trump was guilty, but I think Biden had also done some real shitty stuff. I think Biden is still in the middle of him, everybody figuring that stuff out. The big guy stuff. And by the way, I mean, we haven't talked about Hunter in a while, but I think Hunter's in a lot of trouble. That gun case in Delaware is not going his way. We really haven't updated that in quite a while, but I have been keeping up with it, and it does not look good for him. And I'm on the record on this podcast too, as saying I don't think that people are paying $450,000 for an original Hunter Biden painting, and that's not going to get them some sort of political favor. So I'm sure Joe Biden is in for it, but much like this with Donald Trump, you're going to that stuff is just going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of time for that stuff to come to fruition. So if Biden has some skeletons in his closet with his dealings, which as of right now, nobody has found just yet, but if that were to come to light one day, he can rot in a jail cell too, for all I care. Because again, the country, the Constitution is more important than any sole individual. Matt clarifying, Ant, bro, that wasn't really my point, to be quite honest. My point is he just won the vote of every person in America who feels fucked by their government because he just became relatable. It ain't a bad point, Matt. It's not a bad point. And I would agree with you, but I also do feel that a lot of people, in the same vein of the point you're making, feel like nobody should get special treatment either. I feel like people really don't love when someone gets special treatment. Why should they get it and not me? I don't think people like that at all. So I also think there's a little bit of that too, where again, and I like to think of myself as a pretty middle person, even though I do love it when J Subs calls me a liberal pussy. And I feel like I am like most people, liberal in my social, whatever, and conservative in my, financial, whatever. I feel like a lot of people are like that. I feel like I am one of the middle people that I'm describing. And I don't know which way I'm going just yet. I'll tell you though when I actually make a decision on it all. But honestly, I don't think that people are going to have a lot of tolerance for this if it continues. I mean, if you look at it, he's lost the last couple of big battles he's had to win. He's lost them all. That luster that he had, like I'm saying, he had that middle 20% going into 2016. We were very tired of the Clinton machine. People did not like the way Hillary Clinton, listen, she didn't have a wonderful record as a senator. When she went into the Obama administration, I feel like she was the weakest link. And I feel like a lot of people didn't sneeze at any of that. They didn't look past any of that. They looked at this and they went, tired of this shit, and we're going to give this other wacko a chance. We're going to see what happens. You know what I mean? Those people were tired of the Hillary Clintons of the world back then. Are they still going to be tolerant of Donald Trump and where he's at? I don't know. Good flop too. Not a bad idea. And having DeSantis run. I am not in love with Trump as a candidate, but the Democrats are not fit to run the country, and Trump was the only alternative. DeSantis would be good. See, Good Flop's comment right here is how I feel a lot of people feel and are just either afraid to say it, or like he's alluding to, Good Flop, or she, sorry, Trump's the only alternative, so that's my guy, right? I don't love the Democrats. I don't like what the Democrats are doing. And this guy's beating them, so okay, so this guy. But I believe it to be true that if anybody else gave Donald Trump a fight, if any of those other Republican candidates could have gotten close to his numbers, he might have lost. And unfortunately, nobody did. Nobody did. But I feel like the power that he had in 2016 has been slowly eroding away throughout his presidency. I think he took a big hit on January 6th. I really do. I feel like he lost people then, and I feel like he lost a lot of people today. Again, not his supporters. You're probably going to see people out there. You're probably going to see huge donation numbers. You're going to see rallies. You're going to see protests, maybe, possibly, hopefully all peaceful. I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think his core people are there, man, and they're not going anywhere. It's just those middle people. I don't know where they fall in all of this. And I feel as if, and Good Flop, thank you for your comment, most people feel this way. They don't love Donald Trump as much as they don't like the Democrats. You know what I mean? And that's why, as a Republican Party, you don't let one guy annihilate everybody else. It used to be, prior to Trump, you didn't want to destroy fucking everybody because one of those people was probably going to be your running mate. Donald Trump he's a different bird. He didn't give a shit. So he fucking annihilated everybody because he was going to pick somebody outside of that crew anyway, whether it be Vivek or a few of the other people that he was, some of the people who left early, the primaries, or people who aren't even in it at all. Those are the people that were in contention. So he didn't really give a shit. But now look, now look. I mean, God love this man. If anybody runs a poll and they suddenly find, whoa, hold on a second, DeSantis is a bit more favorable right now than Trump is, they will abandon him like that. Like that. Because there's been a lot of Republicans, and we call most of them senators and Congress people, that are only putting up with this guy because he can win. Once that streak ends, a different story. It's a different story. Christine says, hush money for an affair is nothing compared to murdering people. Yeah, I also do. I mean, I think there's a lot of credence to that comment too, Christine, but I think people at the end of the day feel like you break the law, you break the law. Nikki says, I get more conservative as I age, but I'm not a hardcore Republican yet. I wish we had somebody in the middle who wasn't corrupt. But we all wish that, I think we all do. That's why we're always so hopeful of third party candidates, right? Because we're all doing the same thing. We're like, oh, is this the person? Like, is this the one that's going to are we going to get there? I mean, listen, we're not too far removed from Ross Perot, who, if he didn't quit prematurely, could have possibly beaten Bush and Clinton. Like, if you remember that, what year was that? Was it 96 or 92? What was Reagan? 88 to 90? Or Bush 1 was 88 to 92. Somebody help me out here. Anyway, but that first time, Perot was kind of killing it, and then felt like he wasn't getting enough traction, left, and then people were kind of like, I think you left prematurely because you might actually be in this. And then he came back into the race, and that was it. That was the nail in his coffin, because people were like, well, if you can't fucking hang, then you can't run the country. You can't be like, I'm out, everybody, and then be like, oh, wait a second, I didn't realize how popular I was, I'm coming back in. No, he fucked up. That was a big fuck up. He had a chance there for a little shot of time. He had a chance there. So we're not too far removed. I know it's 30 years. God, I feel so fucking old. It hurts so bad to think that was 30 years ago. But really, in the grand scheme of time, 30 years ain't that long ago to have a third party candidate that was legit, that was ready to go, that could have made something happen. And I also do think him coming back in, he did hold on to a lot of Bush's supporters, and that's why Clinton actually wound up winning, was Perot. Matt, and isn't it about time you did a follow-up on the Billie Eilish mirror masturbation story? Let me check my watch. Oh my God, you're right. We do need to follow up on that. Perhaps tomorrow, perhaps on the Friday episode. We'll see what happens there. Let's see here. We'll give this one over to Good Flop. Trump obviously not more important than the country, and it is very important that Republicans win. I am in Canada, and what is happening in America and the world is very scary. Need a strong America. Well said. I do like a strong America. I do like a strong America. The country did kind of freak out a little bit though, of Jerry Seinfeld, a comedian, saying that he likes a strong masculine presence. That was trending, and people were losing their shit last night over that simple little statement, which, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially when he did acknowledge not the toxic masculinity part, just the strong male part is okay. That can be okay if done the right way. Thank you, Nikki, for the super chat. Always appreciate that. Helps us go a long way to keep up our website and servers and all that other jazz. So appreciate that wholeheartedly. Matt agrees. Thank you for non-biased real conversation. Thank you for taking part in it. Appreciate that, Nikki, Christine, Good Flop, Raven, Matt, and of course Paul and Bird and everybody else. Haywood, Raven. Did I say Raven already? I can't remember. The whole crew is here at a really weird, when we get together Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8:30 to pop on at 6 o'clock on a Thursday and have so many of you guys here and engaged is a wonderful, wonderful happenstance. So thank you very much. Miss Justice, you too as well. Great question. Is Frank happy? Let's see if we can get a comment from Frankie C. Frank, the podcast crew would like to know if you have a comment on what happened this afternoon that I can share with them. Let's see what Frankie C has to say. I would imagine he's very happy, but I would imagine too, it is a kind of a solemn day. Like at the end of the day here, I am kind of embarrassed. Are you not? Leave a comment. Please leave a comment below. Put it in the live chat right now. All right, like put all your political feelings aside. We've just had a former president be convicted of a felony for the first time ever. No matter who you're blaming in this scenario, Trump, Cohen, Alvin Bragg, Biden, are you embarrassed? I'm a smidge on the embarrassed side, and maybe more than a smidge. Maybe more than a smidge. Fucking Miss Justice. She's from Canada too. I'm embarrassed for you. Yeah. Paul, embarrassed? No way. I'm a little embarrassed. I'm a little embarrassed. You want to be, listen, as a country that views themselves as the greatest country, and we can make a lot of arguments for that. And you can make arguments against it too, but for people that feel like we're in a leadership role here, for one of our leaders to be convicted of a felony, it's a little embarrassing. It's a little embarrassing. Hey, listen, you could also look at it as you could be proud that we've shown that the system, the whole is more important than a single part. Like we're not we're not shy about going in and convicting a former president. You could look at it that way too, I guess. But It feels kind of like the whole world is like, you believe the shit going on over there? Fucking not embarrassed because I knew he. Man, I don't know if Mercury passed out before she finished writing that sentence. I hope she's okay. Let's get a wellness check on Mercury, please. Thank you. I feel it shows even though the justice system is in America is rotten, says Matt. Let me see here. If he was found, another conversation going on. If he doesn't get jail time, I'll be embarrassed. I don't think he's going to get jail time, Paul. I really don't. And again, I've said this before. I don't know if we want, a president sitting in a jail cell. I don't know. I mean, the guy almost got fucking thrown in jail for contempt because he couldn't keep his mouth shut. And the judge was pretty tolerant of that the whole way through. Matt says should be more embarrassed by his dodgy hairpiece. I was embarrassed when he was president. He was endorsing using bleach to cure COVID. I do remember that. Somebody sent me a clip of him. It was the anniversary of the day he talked about. I don't know if the bleach comment was the same day as the blast of light, the ultraviolet light. I don't know if that was the same day or not, but it was the light comment, and everybody in the room kind of like, the fuck is he talking about? That was such a weird time. I am so happy we're not back in those times. I got to tell you, so happy we've gotten past that. Zoso, when do we start the Guess My Fart game? I don't know, man. I love that game. I shared that in the Discord because it's been on my feed the last couple of days where people will shout to their significant other, guess my fart. And so the partner has to make the fart noise with their mouth and see how close it is to what eventually comes out of their ass, the person who originally asked ass. And it's surprisingly accurate. I mean, a lot of them get it right, which is pretty amazing. It's not easy to predict a fart, I got to tell you. Because I don't know about you, but I don't fart consistently. I feel like my farts are wild cards. Sometimes they're one way and sometimes they're another way. My farts are like a wonderful potpourri of possibilities. Just a plethora of opportunity for different sounds to come out. My farts are not consistent. Apparently, I'm in the minority there because a lot of people are easily to predict their farts. Let's see here. Mercury says he's a horrible human being. Oh, was that finishing the sentence from before? Possibly. I'm just glad Mercury didn't pass out. Raven says, I hope Trudeau is scared, honestly. Boy, the Canadians are not loving that Trudeau up there, are they? I'm getting the feeling like he's starting to sour on everybody to our neighbors up north. Although the Edmonton Oilers are still in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you got to be psyched about that. I mean, as a Canadian, even a Toronto Maple Leaf fan or a Canadiens fan or Vancouver Canucks fan, you got to be fucking psyched. You guys might get the cup back. And you literally said you may vote for him again. Did I say that? I say a lot of crazy things. I haven't really, I kind of know which way I'm leading here. I mean, my opinion, again, I am embarrassed. I did not love January 6th. I mean, I'm on record for saying this too. I didn't love that he didn't show up for the inauguration. And I feel like I'm the only person saying that. But tradition is a beautiful thing for me. And even though you lost, you fucking stand there and we watch the next guy or girl go in. I really didn't like, nobody fucking brings that up. I really did not like that he did not stand there for the inauguration. I thought that was disgusting. Out of all the shit we're talking about, that might be the most egregious error of his political life. For me, personally. I don't care what you say. That bothers me a lot. Because again, it's the whole over the individual. You lose, you fucking stand there and you be proud of what you did and accomplished, and you watch the next person get sworn in. I really didn't like that he didn't show up. I thought that was just poor judgment. Again, if I'm in the RNC, if I'm in his campaign, if I'm whatever, I am begging him, go to the inauguration. Just go. It's going to make a difference. Again, either we love America or we don't. Either we believe in the justice system or we don't. Either we believe in elections or we don't. Either we believe that most of the police are here to help us or we don't. Of course, there's some bad apples, but most of them are good people. Detectives, police, FBI, Department of Justice, Homeland Security. You can't just pick and choose based off of your convenience. So yeah, you fucking show up on inauguration day and you watch the other guy go in, even though it's the worst thing in the world to happen to a person. You do it because you're showing everybody, look, again, either it's a country that we believe in or it ain't. George Washington could have ruled till he was dead, but he said, nope, I'm going to stand here while this short, pudgy asshole, John Adams, fucking gets sworn in, and I'm going to be here and set an example for everybody else. And that wasn't a law. It wasn't a rule. But every single president, with the exception of two, as far as I can recollect, Kennedy and Lincoln, they weren't able to be there. But outside of them, there was one other one that died. Him too. Outside of them, every one of those motherfuckers showed up for the next one, especially those who lost to the next one. And that's a big deal. And I didn't like that he moved out on that. But more so than anything, I did enjoy the Billie Eilish masturbating in a mirror story. That Billie Eilish, she's something else. She's something else. You ever think she can catch up to Taylor Swift? I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. Taylor Swift never bragged about masturbating in front of a mirror. Billie Eilish, I feel like, is a little more rugged. And that Taylor Swift is just polished and perfect. So I don't know if Billie Eilish, as scrappy as she is, which I love. I prefer the scrap. I like a little scrappiness. I like a little scrap in my, in my mix here. I don't like perfection too much, that Taylor Swift. She's wonderful. I'm just saying. I don't know if Billie Eilish will ever reach those heights, but damn, is she popular. She is popular too. All right. I think that's it. We've done almost an hour here. There's not really much else going on. Oh my God, this is fucking hilarious. Holy shit, the internet is so fucking, they're so fucking funny. I can't even take it. I don't even know who this is on Twitter, but I was like, let me go just check in and see if in all my blabbing about Billie Eilish and whatnot, if anything else happened in the world. And then this popped up on my screen. It's a Photoshop of fucking Melania with Pete Davidson. Oh shit. Credit Christian Greco at Christ Grec for that one. Damn, that's good, Christian. Gold medal for Christian today. That's pretty good. I appreciate that wholeheartedly. It kind of seems like Pete Davidson's always there to kind of scoop somebody up, isn't he? Isn't that always the case? Let's see here if anything else has occurred while we were talking. All right, Donald Trump has just said that he is going to speak at Trump Tower tomorrow. Press conference is set for 11 a.m. The current president, Joe Biden, said he was going to speak today, but he's actually, I believe he's in Delaware if he's not at the White House. But it's the anniversary of the death of his son, Beau, so he is not going to speak today. Let me see here. Manhattan District Attorney said the jurors have spoken in their conviction of former President Donald Trump at a news conference after the jury found Trump guilty on 34 felony charges. Bragg said the voice of the jurors is the most important voice of all. They have spoken. Donald J. Trump has been convicted of 34 counts of falsifying business records, end quote, Alvin Bragg said. The Manhattan DA also said the verdict was rendered by following facts and law without fear or favor. Bragg says he will not address hypotheticals about Trump's sentencing. We'll discuss it in court. He said he's defending his job and his office's work, saying, I did my job and the office did theirs. Bragg does not say if he will request a prison sentence for Trump. He really shouldn't. Again, sentencing will be July 11th. For everybody that's curious. Let's see. Anything else here? We don't need to go through the whole jury statement there. President Trump is staying in New York City tonight. Sources familiar with his plans confirmed. He arrived back at Trump Tower shortly as our episode began at 6 p.m. Let's see here. CNN legal analyst Karen Friedman Agnifilio. That's a lot of long names. I don't know if you noticed this, but you never really know my last name. Why? It's too fucking long. I just cut it off at Anthony. So just take that as some little hint there, Karen. Anyway, she laid out some details on the sentencing. A pre-sentencing report will be prepared, which will include whether Trump feels any sort of remorse. It's just one of the factors that the judge will take into consideration for sentencing. Karen said, quote, every option is on the table with a classy felony like this. She explained that Trump could receive anything from prison time to house arrest. He could do probation. He could do community service where he has to pick up trash on the subway, she said. We'll see what happens, but anyone else in that position would get prison. That's according to the CNN legal analyst. So take that for what it is worth. What it was like inside the courtroom. Do you guys want to hear this? This doesn't look too long. We'll read this out. Trump was smiling. Oh, I kind of said this before, but we'll just put a bow on the episode with this one. Trump was smiling and laughing with his attorney, Todd Blanche, as they waited for the judge to announce that the jury was heading home for the day. Trump and prosecutors assembled. Merchant returned to the bench at 4:13 to let the parties know that he had planned to send the jury home for the day. In about 15 minutes, the judge left the courtroom, and Trump and his lawyers and the prosecutors remained behind to wait for the end of the day. But everything changed when the judge re-entered the courtroom at 4:36 with a stunning note: the jury had reached a verdict. The jury needed 30 minutes to fill out the forms, leaving Trump and attorneys sitting in the courtroom until the judge and jury returned. That's a long time. It's a long 30 minutes to just be sitting there when you know that they've reached a verdict, and now you just got to fucking wait it out. They mostly sat still while waiting, occasionally making small talk amongst themselves. When the judge returned to the bench, he warned the parties in the audience against reactions or outbursts of any kind, as they typically do. The 6 alternates entered and sat in the first row of the gallery behind prosecutors. The 12 jurors took their seats in the jury box. A clerk prompted the jury foreman with each of the 34 accounts. He answered guilty 34 times. The attorneys were silent and serious, as was the verdict that was read. Only the sound of feverish typing could be heard from the galley, filled with press and several members of the public as the foreman delivered Trump's fate. Reporters could not initially see Trump's facial reaction when the first guilty verdict was read. The courthouse had the video screen off while the foreman read most of the verdict, as the court turned off the video whenever jurors were moving. So there you go. Good Flop says, by the way, Anthony Trudeau is widely hated in Canada, more so than Darnell Nurse, because that poor bastard. Most people won't know who Darnell Nurse is. He's just some random defenseman on the Edmonton Oilers. I don't know. He didn't score a bunch of games. They got scored on, and everybody was ready to run that motherfucker out of the country until he had a good game last night. So he got to turn that around, I guess. Raven agrees with you, though. Good Flop. Yeah, I don't really hear a lot of kind things coming from Trudeau. He's had a little bit of a rough run there with the blackface and all that shit that was going on. All right, that's it for us. Appreciate you guys being here on the off time little bonus episode. Obviously, it's a historic day in America with the former president being convicted on 34 felony counts. We'll be back with you guys with some more reaction, I'm sure. President Trump will be speaking tomorrow morning. As I understand it, President Biden will address people at some point soon. I don't know exactly when that is, but I'm sure possibly tomorrow. Maybe we'll probably hear from him. So we'll have some more reaction to the historic case from this afternoon, and we'll get back to the more fun stuff too on the next episode for Friday night. Frankie C will be with us here, I believe. Jay Sabs as well. Blind Top 5 coming up, so that should be a whole bunch of fun there. Don't forget to like and share the episode. Of course, that always helps us greatly if you do that. Need that algo help, little algorithm assistance, as the kids call it. Just kidding, nobody calls it that. And subscribe. Also, you could become a member of the old podcast here, get some exclusive content. I've been assured by Frankie C that a statement is forthcoming. So Frankie C's feelings forthcoming on this one. He'll lay it all out for us. And then, of course, he'll be here with us tomorrow on the podcast. Appreciate you guys, as always. Thanks to all the moderators, the members, and everybody who watched or listens. We love you.
Show me potato salad.
See you on Friday.
Maybe we should go now.
Go ahead.